You thought we were done with the chess, didn't you? Well, we're not. We still got it, homie. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man. So you guys know we got the World Rapid and Blitz Championships rolling. So I did go ahead and get the round 3 game between Johan-Sebastian, Christiansen, and Wesley So, as always. So all of my people in the Philippines, I would say maraming salamat. Welcome to my video. Anybody who is coming up from Norway, I will say tusen tak. Welcome to my video to you guys as well. Yes, like I said, this is round number 3. So, yeah, if you guys are ready to go, man, let's see what we have for this game, homie. All right, man, so we got the move E4. We got E5, probably like the most classical way you can play the game of chess. We got knight to F3, knight to C6. This is going to be about probably 91.5% of what you see in the opening of a chess game with E4 and E5 being played. It is ultra solid. We do see knight to C3. We're inviting the 4 knights, and that is what we do see. We have knight to F6. And then we have this move, knight to D5, which might look kind of crazy to some of you guys. You're like, wait a minute. You got knight taking and stuff. You got knight taking E4. Am I just hanging an E4 pawn? Well, what we actually saw in the game is bishop to E7. It is never a problem to play just ultra solid. You are shutting down any possibilities of if the E file is open that there's going to be any tricks or anything going on. But after knight to D5, you probably are out there thinking, what happens if knight takes E4? Is it like really dangerous? What happens if knight takes D5, right? Okay, so let's look at knight taking D5 first. Knight taking D5 pretty much kind of gets you into like a completely identical situation, even though it doesn't seem like that immediately. We would be looking at pawn taking, and that would go down to D4. This is the best way that you're going to try to defend this pawn, and it is a little bit dangerous if you take here because queen here, and you cannot go queen to E2 to defend. So you probably see knight D4 and then pawn taking D4, and everything is pretty much completely even. Both sides are going to be just basically trying to, you know, recapture their pawn right here. And after knight to D5, if we did see the move knight takes E4 here, I know it probably seems kind of crazy, but we would be looking at D4. Pawn would take D4, bishop D3, knight to C5, and then we do have castles. And you guys see that black does have an extra pawn, but white does have a nice lead in development as compensation. And you know what the computer is like, oh, it's dead even, bro. 0.01 plus for white. We do have all 3 of these pieces out. We are castled if we are white. We only have these 2 pieces as black, so yes, black does have an extra pawn, but they are quite a bit behind in development here, so they got to kind of catch up. But like I said, we did not see that. We got into this position here, bishop to E7. We do see bishop to D3. After the E file is plugged up with bishop to E7, you kind of have to do something about this pawn. So you got like bishop D3 or even D3 you can do or something like that. We got castles by black. We got the move C3. Now, C3 is possibly preparing a D4, but it's also saying, bro, I don't want your knight in my kitchen. So we're blocking all of that up. We do see the move D6. We got bishop back to C2. Bishop to G4. Pin it and win it. It is never, well, I mean, I will say sometimes it is bad. If this bishop is undefended on this square, sometimes you can have some check possibilities. So when you go bishop to G4, I mean, you usually want to try to make sure that it's defended with a knight on F6. We got the move H3. We got bishop back to H5. And then we do see the novelty of the game, which I think you guys are probably going to be like, this is crazy. How is this a novelty? G4. I mean, with H3 and then bishop going back to H5, I mean, G4 is one of the like main considering moves. And it is absolutely the #1 move in this position here. So it's kind of puzzling how this is the novelty. And sometimes it's necessary. When you encounter this pin right here, it can be a little bit annoying. So a lot of the times, you know, if you're on either side of the board, you have bishop G5s, you know, pinning also as well. Sometimes G6 or H6 and G5 or H3 and G4 is necessary because you have to break that pin. So that is what we see. After G4, we see bishop G6. Obviously, it's not the only move, absolutely, in every single case. Sometimes you sacrifice here, but it is necessary in this position. Knight takes F6. We got bishop taking F6, and then we have H4. And, you know, we're basically hoping that as white, we can just push H5, and this bishop is going to be trapped and die. Why not? One can dream, can't they? But we see H5. Wesley So says, I'm not about that life, homie. And we do see the move D3, which might look kind of strange because you're like, wait a minute. Pawn takes G4, correct? Yes. This is hitting your knight, and you do possibly have the move h5 if you want to try to make things, you know, kind of like tit for tat as far as attacking is concerned, which is what we actually see in the game. And you basically kind of have a few options here. You can literally just retreat the bishop, which is absolutely suggested, or you can kind of go down swinging like this and just kind of like trade like we see in the game. We do see bishop taking e4 and then pawn taking e4, and then we do see pawn taking f3. Now, some of you guys might be sitting there thinking, okay, after the move h5, like, what if I just take the knight right here immediately, right? If you take right here immediately, you would actually be giving white a really, really nice initiative and some really powerful pieces. After the pawn would take here, you would be looking at pawn taking g6, possibly knight to e7. You would be looking at queen taking f3, and then knight taking g6. And white is actually really, really great in this position. They have an open G file and open H file. They will most likely be going bishop to B3 and attacking along this diagonal and kind of making this knight shaky. This bishop is active. This queen is active. Maybe king E2, rook goes to G1. This is not really where I'd like to be if I was black. So be a little bit careful with that. So like I said, we did see this position here. We do see rook going to G1. We're not in a hurry to take this pawn because this pawn is not going anywhere and it cannot be defended by, you know, any like a black piece pretty much. So, I mean, you know, you don't have to be so hasty when you take it. But we do see queen to e7. We got queen taking f3. And black is ahead of pawn here, but like I was kind of telling you guys a minute ago, you know, we do have these double bishops. The position is somewhat open. This pawn is a little bit dynamic. So, I mean, you know, white definitely has a little bit of compensation for that pawn. We do see knight going back to d8. There's this very specific idea behind this move. We do see bishop going to b3, and then you see the idea of knight going back to d8. It was actually a really nice preparatory move because now we have the move knight to e6, and this is actually a really great idea. You're blocking this diagonal, and you're making it a little bit safer for your king. And you're basically asking white, do you want to trade your bishop for my knight? I mean, I'm going to have a nice amount of pawns in the center. We do see bishop to e3. We got king sliding over to h8, just being ultra safe. You know, now there are no issues on this diagonal anymore. We do see queen going up to f5. Knight goes down to f4. And even though it's not the end of the world, you are looking at possibilities like knight to d3 check. And I mean, just kind of getting in your kitchen. But, I mean, it's like I said, it's not super horrible because, I mean, you were kind of planning on moving this king somewhere anyway and making room for this other rook. So you kind of, have to decide how you want to deal with it. So we do see Christiansen say, hey, man, I want to just go ahead and get that knight out the way, not worry about any of that, and I can get a pawn in the process. So we got bishop taking, pawn taking, and then queen taking, and everything is fairly even at this point. We have opposite color bishops. I would say that in this position, possibly black is a little bit less safe, but both kings, they're kind of, stuck in the center just a little bit anyway. We do see rook a to e8. Why not attack this pawn? There are many ways to defend it. We got bishop coming back. We got the move f3. But we do see Christiansen say, hey, man, I'm going to go ahead and go rook to g4. And there's kind of a hidden idea behind this. If we can get this king up somewhere, probably not there because bishop there. Well, no, it's not going to happen because the rook is there. Anyways, if we see something like this, we do see the rook possibly sliding over here and just adding more pressure to this black king's position. So there is some hidden ideas behind it. We do see queen going to e5, and then we do see the queen avoiding the trade here. And like I tell you guys a lot, you do have to be careful when you are trading pieces because sometimes you can be giving your opponent a little bit too much. It might kind of seem like you're just trading a piece for a piece, but sometimes you have to kind of think about what it's doing for your opponent. So in this position, it would be not advisable to go queen takes e5 because you would be looking at rook taking e5, and the rook is actually super safe on that square. And we are, possibly looking at the other rook coming to e8 also. So you see that it's kind of helped black get a little bit further ahead. And this king is actually still stuck in the center. And this pawn's a little bit vulnerable. So, like I said, you got to be careful what you give your opponent if you go into trades. So we do see Christiansen saying, hey, man, I'm going to go ahead and just decline the trade. We got bishop going to g5. The king slides over to f1. This was not the absolute best move in the position, but, I mean, you do have a lot of logic behind it. Black has a dark square bishop, and so, you know, sliding onto a light square definitely does seem like it's a little bit safer. Also, this bishop is preventing you from castling queenside, so, I mean, you can't do that anyway. But like I said, sliding from a human perspective, king to f1 makes some sense because, I mean, you are definitely going to be usually pretty safe on this complex. We do see bishop going back to h6 and just kind of plugging up this pawn right here. We do see bishop going down to c2. And we do see queen going to b5 with check. And, I mean, you did have the possibility of taking the pawn immediately. But this definitely does, you know, kind of maximize your threats. We do see queen sliding over to d3. And you do got to be a little bit careful because if this pawn goes forward, this could be checkmate right here. But we do see queen taking h5. We do see rook down to g3. We got rook down to e5. So you see that black kind of got their rook to e5 in anyway. And we see the move f4 from white. And you guys kind of see the bar. You know, on a basic tip, this is kind of weakening the king a little bit because you have flung your pawns kind of somewhat forward. So if you want to pause the video, there is a very nice strategic idea that black can play. It's one move. If you want to try to guess that move, go ahead and do so. Okay, so you kind of do want to be a little bit careful here, though, because bishop takes here will allow this rook to slide to h3, and you have just pinned your queen to the king. So like I said, it might kind of seem like you can take here, but that would be a bad blunder. But from a strategic perspective, what white has done is basically pushed all of the protection in front of their king away. And one of the things that should click in your mind when you see your opponent do that is to try to rip the position open. So what move can you play to rip the position open and to give a nice counterattack? It might kind of seem like it's g5, you know, but that doesn't really activate this rook. So if you said the move f5, you would be absolutely 100% correct. And I think, you know, maybe a few of you might be sitting there thinking like, wait a minute, though. Doesn't this just blunder my rook? Because, like, my rook is hit with this pawn, right? Like, isn't it just going to lose my rook? Well, absolutely not. What we saw in the game was pawn takes f5, and you definitely have to try to make an effort to close this situation down. Because if we go back and you say, hey, man, I'm just going to win a rook, and I'm going to be good. You would not be winning a rook. You would not be good because you would be looking at pawn taking e4 with check. And not only does this discover an attack on this king, it is hitting the queen also. So you have just traded a queen for a rook after you see the king literally do anything. And then the pawn takes d3. And, I mean, this is not really where you want to be at. And like I said, the queen is not in danger of being pinned because this bishop is blocking everything and we're good. So you don't want that. So like I said, that is why we saw pawn takes f5. So this does make a legitimate effort to try to close the situation down, but it still activates the rook for Wesley So. So we do see rook f taking f5, and you see this pawn right here. This pawn is like, no, help me. He's begging for some help because look, he's just kind of a lone ranger just sitting out here in the middle of nowhere, attacking really kind of nothing because it's pinned. So give me some help. We do see king sliding over to g1 trying to unpin. We do see bishop taking f4. And it kind of seems like, from what I told you guys before, that's rook to a3, right? Like, didn't I just blunder? Like, I'm just pinning my queen to my king. You know what? It's crazy. There is one move in this position that you can play that basically makes all of that null and void. It might kind of seem strange. You're like, wait a minute, man. Like, how am I supposed to get myself out of this? Because I can't put a piece in the way anywhere. I'm just messed up, right? I'm going to, like, go home and cry. No, you're not, bro. Because you will have found the move bishop to e3 with check. So what this does is it places a check on the king. And the most important thing that it does is it now disconnects the queen's sight to this rook. So if you were to just like make a move somewhere, you know, you would be losing your rook. So even if you did something like so, you would be looking at rook up to f2 with check. And then really, no matter what you do, the queen is going to be taking here. You have some other mate possibilities going on. So that is not where you want to be at. So In this situation, we did see queen taking e3. You kind of have to go down swinging in that respect. We do see rook taking e3 and then rook taking h5. And this was the only way to try to keep that pin alive. But you guys see after everything, black has double rooks and white has a bishop and a rook. And also they are down 2 entire pawns. So this is not ideal, if I do say so myself. So we got the rook going to f1. We do see king sliding over to g8. And then we see what is known as a spike check. Absolutely a spike check because, I mean, this check does nothing. And, I mean, black is just able to just go d5. And it's like, I'm not worried about your check at all. And it is in this position that Johan-Sebastian Christiansen resigns the game. And Wesley So gets him a W. So, Yoon... It is Malaka see Wesley So in this one, man. Tusen talk to everybody that is coming from Norway. I will say God Morgan to you. Good morning if you it's morning time over there where you're at. Let me see. Ingat lagi to everybody that is coming from the Philippines. Mabuting pagbati, and I'm gonna see you guys next time.